Team 29 for CSCI 572 web search, and this is our final project. This is the third part of the project, and here's our demo. So I hope you enjoy it. Cool. So as you can see, initially we have a D3 visualization of one of our pictures, an AK-47, which is built out of cats or other pictures. But anyway, this is our D3 interface, and you can pick a query here from one of our 5 questions. So the first question was what time-based trends exist in gun ads, and can we correlate them with spatial and temporal properties? So on the left here we have a calendar where green is actually the highest, but red is active and white is not active. So we can visualize the spatial or the temporal distribution. On the right hand side we have MIME types. That's actually helpful for the given query to know what type of data is coming back at us. We have a visualization of the score distribution on the right hand side. So that's the link score, and here we're displaying actually 2 different curves. One for a query for Houston and the other query for Los Angeles, which you can choose here. And the most important thing in this frame actually is the visualization of the spatial distribution. So we're zoomed in a little bit, but the yellow dots here are sales, and this is around the Los Angeles area. We have a pretty wide bounding box that includes most of California, Arizona and stuff, but if you zoom out further, we actually have restricted it. But just so that there could be a good amount of information, we have a pretty good bounding box. So this is like a West Coast query. Yeah, so that's our answer for the first one, that we can identify temporal and spatial clusters just within all posts in general. Moving to the second one, which is highly related, so similar to this where we're looking at clusters both in space and time, we're going to look at clusters with respect to a certain content type. Oh, and this like scrolls fully and you can explore, and yeah, so that's a pretty good map. And so does this, I believe, yeah. Anyway, so going to query 2. Query 2 is a very similar one, except it wants to identify certain types of firearms, or similar types of firearms. So in this case we're looking at pistols, just pistols, but their sales across time. So this is a 10-month distribution, and these are months from today going backwards, and in 2 different cities. So one in Houston again and one in LA. And as you can see, the Houston sales spike rapidly, which is quite alarming. But the Los Angeles sales do not, and which is very nice because we're in Los Angeles. We have the same MIME type distribution and the same score distribution, so you know what you're the general composition of what you're looking at. Yeah, so that's our answer for number 2. It's a very similar question. Yes, we can identify temporal spikes. So and also the link score gives you some notion of region. And of course, this is the same restricted thing, restricted query. So we have a temporal and spatial cluster or spike, indicative of some interesting activity. So that's actually really cool. At least I think so. That we can find these like sales spikes on a monthly basis. As you go into higher resolution, it doesn't carry over as well, just because sales generally don't happen on the order of days or minutes or something. But yeah, so moving to query 3. Now query 3, we decided to get a little fancy, so this is animated. This is similar to default animation, but with our own data. And we have 4 different data sets here, I guess, that we're visualizing on top of each other in relation to each other. So in the orange, as it restarts, is Los Angeles in orange and green, and those are 2 different gun types. Those are Berettas and Glocks. And the same two gun types, but for Houston, are in blue and red. Red as in Glocks again. Yeah, you get a variety of ways of visualizing them. So that's really cool. And yeah, so that's a very similar answer again to query 1 and 2. So we decided to do something a little different so that you weren't completely bored looking at exactly the same graphs. But yeah, we can obviously do any of those for these questions. So question 4 is actually much harder, and generally you have to shuffle this around. It is random. So question 4 is, can you identify ads or weapon images that are posted by persons who are underage or in which the weapons are de-identified? So in this case, we have a query that you can look into the code or the documentation, and it's the same from assignment 2. It's a fairly complex query, but we come up with the answer of no. We display this word cloud as to why. The word cloud gives you some notion of what the articles are, and we're fairly certain that if there were explicit articles about how to deserialize your guns, now obviously they could be masked in some way, but the explicit articles would appear. There is an explicit article about how it is illegal in South Carolina, about South Carolina state law. But other than that, we don't have any mention of it, probably because it is illegal, and people use coded language or just simply non-standard language when talking about doing these sorts of activities. Yes, but the word cloud does give us some notion of what's going on there. And we use the same strategy for question 5, which is also very similar and also very hard. It's asking whether or not we can identify explosives, weapons of mass destruction, precursors, and the answer is no. Well, rather fortunately, otherwise we'd all be in grave danger. But we get these news articles that come up. So we have very standard responses or keywords that start to come up, and again several South Carolina laws that come up. So I think we crawled a site that posts South Carolina laws, but yeah, so the responses are good quality but are negative in that no, we can't identify any because we don't have any in our data set, we believe, or at least it's very hard to identify them. So yes, just to recap, we have a calendar, a MIME type distribution, this pie chart, just a simple line plot of the ordered link scores, and then a nice map here, and then we also have this double bar plot. I guess those two on the bottom aren't new. This animated graphic, which draws very slowly because it's animated, and the word cloud. So that's all we have for D3JS. But moving on to Banana, which is a pre-built or just a more less hands-on sort of activity, right? A sort of package. So for our Banana setup, we decided to have 4 boxes. So we have a keyword cloud over here, a query hit on the right-hand side at the top. This is the raw number of hits you have. Again, the content type distribution, it's helpful for characterizing what your query is actually returning. And a geoparser location distribution. So the geoparser in general is very noisy. It identifies things like sale, which you'll see in the next one with facet view, but it identifies some pretty strange places. However, in general, it does do pretty well, pretty impressively. So we filtered out for a little bit of the noise, and we're able to generate good stuff. And Banana is very easy to use. So you just go up here. Yep, and I've already filled this out once or twice or 7 times, so we can fill it out. If you just type that out and hit enter, and it will query for you. Yeah, will it query? Oh, perhaps it's already queried that one. So let's try a different one. So you can see it change. Yeah, there we go. So we saw the word cloud change. The content type distribution is pretty much the same, and we have a slightly different geoparser location. Let's try even a completely different one. Cool. So yeah, there you saw it. A lot of them are very similar, at least the gun-related ones, but you get good results, and you have some meaningful data that just comes up really easily here. So that's pretty useful. Anything else? Okay, so moving on, we have facet view. It's our last thing. We have so we have keywords, facets on the left. You can select them and you can mix and match. So let's say I wanted to talk about guns. It's a gun filter. Then maybe a location, or yeah, you want not a location. Let's Dallas perhaps. All right, yeah. So getting a lot of these HTML pages, well, HTML documents, but pages basically, about guns in Dallas, and that's obviously a good thing because that's what we asked for. So yeah, this is facet view. It allows you to just mix and match, hit tabs. They're really easy as well. It's not as robust to noise. So if we go back here, I think we have sale or hunting. Yeah, hunting is not a place, but that's okay because we know that, and the geoparser, we know that there's a little bit of noise in there. And of course, we can get pretty good searches here. So this is exactly the Solar interface, and we can do, you know, the same exact search, right? Or things that aren't related, like, yeah, state names. We can look for stuff there, and it's returning pretty good stuff, right? So it's clear that we have a lot of guns in our database. I think that's it for our demo. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully this fulfilled the requirements, and if not, like if there's anything critical you want to see again, you know, we have all the data there, so you can fire it up yourself, or we can fire it up for you. Thank you for an excellent semester. Yeah, and have a nice break.